Her aunt sold her to the feared Duke as a servant. He tore up the contract and gave her a chair. Eliza arrived at Blackthorn House in torn mourning clothes while her aunt argued over the price of her labor. Everyone expected the feared Duke to inspect his new servant. Instead, he pulled out a chair, told her to sit, and asked the one question nobody else had bothered to ask: had she agreed to be sold? By nightfall, the contract was gone, and for the first time, Eliza's future belonged to her. The rain had been falling since before dawn, turning the red gates of Blackthorn House almost brown in the spring gloom. Eliza Warren stood beneath the stone arch with water soaking through the hole in her left shoe. Cold mud pressed between her toes. Her dress had once been black for mourning, but 3 months of washing had faded it to charcoal, and the elbows had been patched with cloth that did not quite match. Beside her, Aunt Miriam held an oilskin packet as carefully as if it contained a deed to farmland instead of the document that sold another human being's labor. "She's my own sister's girl," Miriam told the steward. "Healthy, quiet, knows how to scrub floors and mend linen. You're getting a bargain." Her nails tightened around Eliza's upper arm. "If she hadn't brought bad luck on her parents, I might have kept her myself. But I have mouths enough to feed." The other applicants waiting beneath the covered walk pretended not to listen. They listened anyway. Everyone in the district knew about the Duke of Blackthorn. Nathaniel Hawthorne had returned from the northern border less than a year earlier with a scar across one hand, a reputation for sending corrupt officers to military court, and almost no patience for social niceties. 3 household staffs had turned over since his return. People said he dismissed servants for lying, guests for cruelty, and one cousin for striking a stable boy. The stories grew more dramatic with every telling. Eliza had heard that he never smiled. That he slept with a pistol under his pillow. That he had once made a baron wait 3 hours in a snowstorm because the man had underpaid his tenants. Aunt Miriam considered these qualities useful. "Strict houses keep girls from getting ideas," she had said on the carriage ride. Eliza knew what ideas meant. Wanting wages. Wanting a room with a lock. Wanting to decide whether a man could buy the next 5 years of her life because a relative signed a paper. The steward, Mr. Bell, looked from the contract to Eliza. His expression tightened. "His Grace is not purchasing household bonds today." Miriam's smile vanished. "Don't be ridiculous." The agent in town said the estate needed laundry girls. "It does." "Paid staff." "Same difference." Eliza felt Mr. Bell's gaze sharpen. Miriam pushed the packet toward him. "I have a lawful guardianship claim. Her father is dead. Her mother is dead. The debt for funeral expenses falls to the family. She can work it off here." "How much debt?" 40 crowns. Eliza looked at her aunt. Yesterday it had been 26. Before she could speak, footsteps sounded from the hall behind them. Not hurried. Not loud. But every servant beneath the portico straightened. A man in a black coat crossed the threshold. The first thing Eliza noticed was not his height or the silver insignia at his collar. It was his hand. Old pale scars crossed the knuckles. One finger did not bend fully. The hand stopped near her wet sleeve. Eliza lowered her head automatically. She expected a question. Name. Age. Skills. Price. Instead, the Duke said, "You've been standing in the rain." Eliza blinked. His voice was low, roughened slightly at the edges. "Yes, Your Grace." "For how long?" She glanced at Miriam. "Not long." Nathaniel looked at the puddle beneath her shoes. "That answer is clearly false." Eliza's face warmed. No one laughed. The Duke turned toward the hall and pulled a wooden chair away from the wall. It was an ordinary chair. Dark oak. Worn arms. A cushion upholstered in faded green wool. He placed it beside Eliza. Sit. The entire entrance hall went silent. Eliza stared at the chair. She had been told to kneel before employers. Stand straight before buyers. Turn around so women could inspect her hands. Open her mouth once so an overseer could check her teeth as if she were a horse. Nobody had ever offered her a chair in the middle of being sold. I can stand, she whispered. I'm sure you can. Nathaniel's expression did not change. You don't have to. Something tightened painfully behind her ribs. Slowly, Eliza sat. Her fingers sank into the soft edge of the cushion. Nathaniel turned to Mr. Bell. The contract. The steward handed him the oilskin packet. Miriam recovered enough to protest. Your Grace, if it's the price, I'm reasonable. Nathaniel opened the paper. He read for less than a minute. Then he looked at Eliza. Did you agree to this? Miriam answered first. She's under my authority. Nathaniel did not look at her. I asked Miss Warren. Eliza's throat closed. Nobody had asked. Not the village clerk. Not Aunt Miriam. Not the carriage driver who joked that Blackthorn House might beat obedience into her. Nathaniel waited. Eliza found her voice. No. The word was small. It changed the room. Nathaniel folded the document once. Then twice. Mr. Bell, bring the registry book. The steward disappeared. Miriam stepped forward. You can't simply ignore a family debt. Nathaniel finally looked at her. The warmth that had been in his voice for Eliza disappeared. I can ignore a fraudulent contract. Fraudulent? The burial invoice attached to this document is dated 12 days before Mrs. Warren died. Miriam went still. Eliza stared. Nathaniel tapped the page. And the clerk who witnessed the debt has been dead for 8 months. His signature has become remarkably productive. Mr. Bell returned with a heavy book. Nathaniel opened it on a side table. Miss Warren's name is not to enter the bonded service registry. He took a pen. Record her as a guest of the estate until she decides where she wishes to go. The steward's pen paused. A guest, Your Grace? Yes. West Wing allowance. Private room. Clothing account sufficient for practical use, not court nonsense. Eliza stood so quickly the chair shifted. Your Grace, I can't pay for that. Nathaniel looked at her. I didn't ask you to. Then I can work. If you choose to work, Mr. Bell will pay you the same rate as anyone else doing the same job. Eliza stared at him. He added, freedom that requires gratitude to survive is not freedom. Aunt Miriam made a sound somewhere between outrage and disbelief. What about me? Nathaniel handed the contract to Mr. Bell. You will receive nothing. I paid for her mother's funeral. Then present valid receipts to the village court. Miriam's face twisted. She'll come crawling back. Girls like her always do. Nathaniel's eyes turned cold. You sold a grieving girl 3 months after her mother's death. If she ever returns to your door, I suggest you regard it as evidence of extraordinary mercy. He nodded to the guard. Mrs. Pike is not to enter Blackthorn property again. Miriam began shouting as the guard escorted her toward the rain. Eliza listened until the voice faded beyond the gate. Then she sat again because her knees had begun to shake. Nathaniel noticed. He did not ask whether she was grateful. He did not ask what she could do for him. He only said, "Tea?" Eliza laughed. It escaped before she could stop it. Nathaniel's eyebrows rose. Was that a strange question? A little. Why? She looked at the torn shoe beneath her dress. An hour ago I thought I was being sold to your laundry. And now? Now the feared Duke of Blackthorn is asking if I want tea. Something almost like amusement moved through his face. The stories about me are disappointing in detail. Eliza looked at him for the first time without immediately lowering her eyes. I don't know yet. That was the beginning. Not of love. Not yet. It was the beginning of being asked. The West guest room had blue curtains. Eliza stood in the doorway that evening and refused to cross the threshold for almost a full minute. The bed was large enough for 3 people. A small fire burned in the grate. Someone had placed a pitcher of warm water on the washstand and folded 2 plain cotton nightgowns at the foot of the mattress. Mrs. Finch, the housekeeper, mistook Eliza's silence for dissatisfaction. If the blue bothers you, we can move you. No. Eliza touched the doorframe. It's too much. Mrs. Finch gave her a long look. A room? All of it. It's a bed, a chair, a basin, and a rug. Blackthorn House will survive the extravagance. Eliza almost smiled. Mrs. Finch pointed to the door. Lock works from inside. Eliza looked at her. The older woman's face softened. His Grace ordered new locks on the west wing after a guest complained that footmen walked in without knocking. He is strange about doors. Strange? Believes people should be able to close them. Revolutionary stuff. Eliza laughed. Mrs. Finch smiled. There. Better. Supper at 7. You may come down or eat here. Nobody will inspect your choice. After she left, Eliza closed the door. Then locked it. The click was tiny. She leaned her forehead against the wood and cried without making a sound. The next morning she woke before dawn because servants woke before dawn. Habit pulled her out of bed. She dressed in the clean gray gown Mrs. Finch had left and followed the smell of bread toward the kitchen. A scullery maid nearly dropped a pot when she saw her. Miss Warren. You're not supposed to be here. Eliza froze. I'm sorry. No, I mean dash. The girl looked horrified. You're a guest. Mrs. Finch said you're not to work unless you ask Mr. Bell about wages. Eliza stared at the broom in the corner. What do guests do? The scullery maid considered this. Complain about breakfast? Eliza laughed. By 9, she had found Mr. Bell. I want work. He adjusted his spectacles. Doing what? Anything. That is not a job description. Laundry. Mending. Kitchen. I can keep household accounts. A little. Mr. Bell paused. Accounts? My mother ran the village cloth cooperative after my father died. I helped. Can you read ledgers? Yes. Write a proper hand? Yes. He handed her a sheet. Copy this column. Eliza did. He inspected it. Then gave her another. By noon, she had discovered 3 arithmetic mistakes in the candle inventory. Mr. Bell looked personally offended. Who entered this? Eliza glanced at the initials. You did. He stared. She wondered if freedom lasted only one day. Then Mr. Bell laughed. Excellent. I dislike being wrong, but I dislike paying for imaginary candles more. He offered her temporary clerical work in the estate office. Paid. 12 silver pieces a week. Eliza asked him to repeat the amount. He did. She went outside afterward and sat on the same oak chair Nathaniel had brought to the entrance the previous day. Someone had moved it beneath the covered walk. Eliza held her first written employment agreement in both hands. She was still sitting there when Nathaniel returned from writing. His boots were muddy. His coat was damp. He stopped. You appear to have stolen my chair. Eliza looked up. I was told it belonged to the hall. Then I have been deceived for years. She smiled. He noticed the paper. Mr. Bell hired you. Yes. Do you want the work? The question made her smile disappear. He saw it. What? You keep asking that. It seems relevant. People usually tell me what I want after they've decided for me. Nathaniel removed his gloves. Then perhaps they enjoy being wrong. Eliza looked down at the contract. I want it. Good. He began to walk inside. Your Grace? Nathaniel turned. Thank you. His expression became unreadable. For the job? For yesterday. He was quiet for a moment. You do not owe me gratitude for refusing to participate in a crime. Most people would have called it lawful. Most people are often lazy about the difference between lawful and right. He went inside. Eliza watched him go. That night, she wrote her name on the first page of a blank notebook. Eliza Warren. No guardian. No owner. No debt. She stared at the words until they blurred. Life at Blackthorn House developed slowly around her. The Duke was not kind in the way Eliza expected kind men to be. He did not flatter. He did not rescue every problem before anyone asked. He was impatient with excuses, terrible at small talk, and capable of reducing a visiting magistrate to silence with one question about tenant eviction records. But servants were paid on time. No one could strike another employee without dismissal. Kitchen workers ate before leftovers went cold. Stable boys received boots each winter. The rules were written down. Eliza found that more comforting than charm. Nathaniel's reputation for losing staff had also been exaggerated. 3 staffs had not quit. He had dismissed 3 supervisors in a year, 1 for stealing wages, 1 for harassing maids, and 1 for selling spoiled grain to tenants at full price. People who benefited from old habits called accountability temper. Eliza understood that too. Within 6 weeks, Mr. Bell moved her from inventory copying to tenant correspondence. She had a gift for finding the sentence beneath the sentence. A farmer who wrote that he was temporarily delayed in rent had lost 2 cows. A widow who requested permission to sell timber was trying to pay a surgeon. A miller who complained about bridge tolls had discovered a local official collecting twice the legal rate. Eliza began attaching notes. Ask veterinarian to inspect herd before penalty. Confirm surgery cost before approving timber sale. Audit toll station. Nathaniel noticed. One morning he entered the estate office holding a petition covered in her handwriting. Did you write this? Eliza looked at it. The notes, yes. Why did you question the toll records? The miller listed 3 crossings in 5 days. The amount he paid would require 6. Nathaniel stared at her. Mr. Bell. The steward looked up. Yes, Your Grace? Why is Miss Warren earning 12 silver pieces? Eliza's stomach dropped. Mr. Bell looked equally alarmed. Nathaniel continued. Make it 18. Eliza blinked. Mr. Bell coughed. Immediately. Nathaniel turned to leave. Eliza stood. Wait. He looked back. You cannot simply increase my wages without asking. Mr. Bell made a strangled noise. Nathaniel's eyebrow lifted. Would you prefer less? No. Excellent. That's not the point. To her surprise, he waited. Eliza took a breath. If you raise my wage because you feel sorry for me, I don't want it. Nathaniel's face changed. I do not pay petty wages. Then why? He held up the petition. Because this note saved 3 days of audit work and exposed theft. That is worth more than copying candle totals. Eliza looked at him. Oh. Will 18 offend you less if I make you responsible for more work? She almost smiled. Possibly. Good. Mr. Bell, burden her appropriately. After he left, Mr. Bell stared at Eliza. You argued about a raise. I wanted to know why. Most people assume money is self-explanatory. Eliza sat down. Most people have never been given money and then told it purchased their obedience. Mr. Bell's face softened. Fair. The first real conflict with Aunt Miriam came in midsummer. A letter arrived at the estate office demanding Eliza's return. Miriam claimed a magistrate had confirmed funeral debt. The seal looked official. Eliza's hand shook before she reached the second line. Mr. Bell noticed. You don't have to read it. I do. Why? Because not reading it won't make it disappear. Nathaniel entered during the argument. He read the letter. Forgery. Eliza looked at him. You know that immediately? The magistrate retired in May. He signs nothing now except complaints about his gout. Eliza laughed despite herself. Nathaniel put the letter down. I'll send counsel. No. He looked at her. Eliza's heart hammered. I want to go. To your aunt? To the magistrate. Nathaniel frowned. Why? Because if you solve it, she'll say I hid behind you. Do you care what she says? I care what I believe. He was silent. Then he nodded. Mr. Bell can arrange transport. Eliza stared. You're not coming? Do you want me to? There was the question again. She almost hated how much it mattered. Eliza thought. No. Nathaniel nodded once. Then I won't. She went with Mrs. Finch and an estate clerk as witness. The village courthouse smelled exactly as she remembered, damp wood, old paper, and men's certainty. Aunt Miriam was already there. Her face changed when Eliza entered wearing a clean brown dress and carrying her own document case. Look at you. Eliza stopped across the table. Hello, Aunt. Playing lady now? Working clerk. The magistrate, Mr. Dent, cleared his throat. Mrs. Pike claims burial expenses totaling 40 crowns. Eliza opened her folder. My mother's burial was paid from the Widows' Mutual Fund in our parish. Here is the receipt. Miriam went pale. Eliza continued. The coffin cost 7 crowns. The churchyard fee was waived because my mother taught reading there for 12 years. The gravestone was paid by me from the sale of her loom. She placed each receipt down. My aunt contributed 2 crowns for food after the funeral. I will repay that today if the court finds it a loan rather than a gift. Miriam slammed one hand down. I fed you for 3 months. You took my mother's silver sewing box and sold it. For household expenses. It was worth 11 crowns. The magistrate looked at Miriam. She sputtered. Eliza's hand stopped shaking. The court dismissed the debt. Then Mr. Dent examined the forged document. Miriam began crying. Eliza felt nothing she expected. No triumph. No cruelty. Only distance. Outside the courthouse, Miriam followed her. You think that Duke cares about you? Eliza stopped. This is not about him. Everything is about him now. Look at your clothes. Your wages. Your carriage. The carriage belongs to the estate. My wages are mine. Miriam laughed. Until he gets tired of you. Men always collect payment. The old fear found its mark. Eliza hated that. Miriam saw it. You think a man like that gives rooms to poor girls for nothing? Mrs. Finch stepped forward. Eliza lifted one hand. She wanted to answer herself. Perhaps you're right about some men. Miriam smiled. Eliza continued. That's why I have savings now. And work. And a contract I can leave. Miriam's smile faded. If Blackthorn House closes its door tomorrow, I still belong to myself. She walked away. The carriage ride home was quiet. That evening Nathaniel found Eliza in the entrance hall. She was sitting in the oak chair. Again. He had stopped pretending it was his. How did it go? The debt was dismissed. Good. My aunt forged the seal. Less good. Eliza looked at him. Why didn't you come? Nathaniel leaned against the opposite wall. You asked me not to. Most men would have decided I didn't understand what I needed. Most men are exhausting. She laughed. Then the laughter faded. She said you would eventually want payment. Nathaniel's face became still. Eliza wished she had not said it. He crossed the hall slowly and stopped several feet away. Do you believe her? I don't know. The honesty hurt. Nathaniel nodded. Then I should not ask you to trust what I say. Eliza frowned. What? Trust is evidence accumulated over time. He looked at the chair. You have employment you can leave. Savings I cannot touch. A room whose lock works. If there are other safeguards you need, tell Mr. Bell. You're not offended? That a woman sold by family is cautious about dependents? No. His mouth tightened. I would be offended if you weren't. Something in Eliza loosened. Nathaniel started to go. Your Grace. He turned. Why did you help me that first day? For the first time, she saw uncertainty in him. Because someone should have helped my mother. Eliza waited. Nathaniel looked toward the rain-dark windows. My father controlled every account in the household. My mother had jewelry, rooms, servants, and no money she could spend without asking. When she tried to leave, he told everyone she was unstable. Eliza's breath caught. Did she leave? Eventually. How? My grandmother gave her a carriage and a bank draft. A faint smile touched his face. And a chair, actually. A chair? Mother was standing in grandmother's morning room, trying to explain why she had no right to ask for help. Grandmother told her to sit down before she said another foolish thing. Eliza looked at the oak chair beneath her. Nathaniel followed her gaze. I suppose the family has a tradition of aggressive furniture. Eliza laughed so suddenly she had to cover her mouth. Nathaniel smiled. It changed his face completely. She would think about that smile later. Much later. 2 weeks after the courthouse hearing, Eliza returned to her mother's village for the first time since Miriam had taken her away. She almost turned back at the bridge. The village looked offensively unchanged. Children chased a hoop through the lane. Laundry moved between cottages. The baker had painted his door yellow. The church bell rang 11 as if Mary Warren had not died, as if Eliza had not left in a wagon with one bag and a contract folded beside her aunt. Mrs. Finch had offered to come. Eliza said no. Nathaniel did not offer. That, too, was a form of learning. Eliza carried a small key in her pocket. The village cloth cooperative had written to say there were belongings of her mother's still locked in the upstairs office. Miriam had apparently tried to claim them. The cooperative women refused. Mary Warren had taught half of them bookkeeping. They were not inclined to surrender her papers to a sister who called a woman's daughter payment for funeral soup. The cooperative occupied 2 rooms above a dye shop. When Eliza entered, 5 women stopped working. Then Mrs. Hale, who had known Eliza since infancy, crossed the room and hugged her so hard Eliza lost her hat. "Your mother would haunt me if I didn't," she said into Eliza's hair. Eliza laughed and cried at once. The upstairs office smelled of wool, dust, and lavender soap. Mary's desk remained beneath the window. A cracked mug sat beside the inkstand. Eliza touched the handle. For a moment, she was 16 again, reading totals aloud while her mother corrected invoices. "Never trust a column that adds too neatly," Mary used to say. "People like making lies look tidy." In the bottom drawer, Eliza found 6 notebooks. Not diaries. Accounts. Of course. Lists of women who needed looms repaired. Notes about apprentices. Small emergency loans. A page titled "Girls Who Can Read but Pretend They Cannot Because Men Become Difficult." Eliza laughed so loudly Mrs. Hale came upstairs. "Found that list? You knew about it?" "I am on it." Eliza looked again. There was Mrs. Hale's name. Beside it, her mother's note. "Excellent reader. Terrible liar. Husband has not noticed either." Eliza covered her face. She was impossible. "Yes." Mrs. Hale sat on the corner of the desk. "She was also proud of you." Eliza looked down. "I don't feel like I gave her much to be proud of at the end." "You were caring for a dying woman at 22. What exactly did you think you were supposed to achieve between medicine doses?" Eliza did not answer. Mrs. Hale's voice softened. "Your mother worried about you because you believed competence meant never needing help." Eliza stared. "She said that?" "Frequently. Usually while refusing help herself." That sounded exactly right. Eliza opened the final notebook. Inside the cover was a letter. Not addressed. Just her mother's hand. "If Eliza ever needs these, give them to her. If Miriam asks first, lie." Eliza laughed through tears. The letter continued. "My girl thinks being useful is how she earns her place. I fear I taught her that by accident. Tell her a place that disappears when she stops being useful was never a home. Tell her she is allowed to choose badly sometimes. Tell her I hope she chooses wonderfully, but freedom includes bad judgment." Eliza had to stop reading. Mrs. Hale waited by the window. After several minutes, Eliza finished. There was one more line. "And if some rich man rescues her, make sure she gets her own bank account." Eliza laughed so hard she bent over the desk. Mrs. Hale began laughing too. "Your mother distrusted romance on principle." "Apparently." Eliza took the notebooks back to Blackthorn. She did not show Nathaniel the letter. Not immediately. Some things could belong to her before they became shared. Instead, she used one notebook to begin a project Mary had never finished. An evening accounts class for village women. Mr. Bell objected to the schedule. "The estate office closes at 6. Then the class will meet at the school. You work until 5:30. I am familiar with clocks. You will exhaust yourself." That sounds suspiciously like deciding what I want. Mr. Bell glared. "You are becoming unbearable. The Duke says the same. His Grace created this problem." Nathaniel funded nothing at first. Eliza insisted. She paid for candles and paper from her own wages. Mrs. Hale sent 2 old ledgers. The schoolmaster lent a room. 7 women came the first night. 12 the next week. By winter, there were 23. They learned addition, contracts, rent calculations, interest, and how to recognize when a merchant changed units halfway down a page. A laundress named May discovered her employer had been deducting twice the legal amount for soap. A dairy worker realized a milk buyer had shorted her on weight for 4 months. A widow named Hannah learned enough to challenge a loan document carrying an interest rate she had never agreed to. The class became practical very quickly. Nathaniel attended once. He stood in the back until Eliza noticed him. "Why are you here?" 23 women turned. Nathaniel, who had faced cavalry charges with less visible discomfort, said, "Observation. Do you intend to learn arithmetic?" "I was told I already knew it." May called from the front. Men are often told that too early. The room erupted. Nathaniel looked at Eliza. "I see what kind of institution this is. Dangerous." Clearly. After class he walked Eliza home. At her cottage gate, he said, "The estate should pay for the candles." "No." "Why?" "Because then it becomes your program. It would still be yours." "Legally?" He stopped. Eliza smiled. "Exactly." Nathaniel considered. "What if the estate provides grants through an independent village fund with a committee you choose?" She tilted her head. "That is annoyingly reasonable." "I have moments." They built the fund that winter. Not as charity. As a small cooperative trust with elected members. Eliza placed her mother's notebooks in its cabinet. The next major challenge came from Parliament, not family. Word of Nathaniel's refusal to register Eliza's service contract had traveled farther than either of them realized. A southern landowner filed a complaint claiming Blackthorn was interfering with lawful debt service. 3 other nobles joined. They were not concerned about Eliza. They were concerned about precedent. If relatives could not bind orphaned young women to labor for vague family debts, several profitable arrangements would become difficult. Nathaniel received a summons to appear before the Provincial Labor Committee in the capital. Eliza learned from Mr. Bell. "When does he leave?" "Tuesday." "And he wasn't going to tell me?" Mr. Bell suddenly became fascinated by a pencil. Eliza found Nathaniel in the map room. "You're going to the capital." He looked up. "Yes." "Because of my contract." "Because several men dislike being told they cannot buy people through creative bookkeeping." "Same issue." Nathaniel rolled up the map. "You do not need to be involved." Eliza stared. He recognized the mistake before she spoke. "I phrased that badly." "Very." He sighed. "I was going to ask whether you wanted to be involved." "When?" "After you returned?" "Possibly." Nathaniel. It was the first time she used his given name. Both of them noticed. He went still. Eliza did not have time to be embarrassed. "They are debating whether my aunt had a right to sell my labor. I am involved whether I travel or not. The hearing will be hostile." "So was my aunt." "They will talk about your parents." "So did my aunt." "They may say you seduced me into generosity." Eliza blinked. "Did I?" Nathaniel's mouth twitched. "Not successfully, if that was the plan." "Then I will survive the allegation." He studied her. "Do you want to testify?" "Yes." "Then you will." The capital hearing took place in a wood-paneled chamber designed to make ordinary people feel temporary. Eliza sat beside Nathaniel at a long table. Across from them, Lord Branton represented the petitioners. He was pink-faced, elegant, and visibly irritated that Eliza had been given a chair at the table rather than a bench behind it. The committee chairman began. "Miss Warren, is it true that the Duke of Blackthorn destroyed a lawful labor contract belonging to your guardian?" Eliza folded her hands. "No." Branton leaned forward. You deny he destroyed the contract? He voided a fraudulent document. Those are different things. A few observers murmured. The chairman adjusted his spectacles. Were you at the time dependent on Mrs. Pike? I was living in her house. Then she provided food and shelter. For 3 months, after selling property that belonged to my mother and keeping the proceeds. Branton interrupted. This is a family dispute. Eliza looked at him. Exactly. Which is why turning it into a labor sale was inappropriate. Someone behind Nathaniel coughed to hide a laugh. Branton's face darkened. Did His Grace provide you housing? Temporarily. Clothing? Yes. Employment? I applied for employment after arriving. And now you receive wages from his estate? Yes. Branton smiled. So in practical terms, you entered Blackthorn House as dependent labor and remain there as dependent labor. The Duke merely changed the language. Eliza felt Nathaniel tense beside her. She answered before he could. No. Branton lifted one eyebrow. Eliza continued. I can resign. The room quieted. I can move. I can keep my savings. I can refuse work outside my contract. I can marry someone else. I can marry no one. I can leave Blackthorn tomorrow and His Grace has no lawful claim on my body, wages, or future labor. She looked directly at Branton. That is not a change in language. That is the entire difference. The chairman leaned back. Branton shuffled papers. You speak very warmly of His Grace. Nathaniel's jaw hardened. Eliza almost smiled. I speak warmly of many people who have not purchased me. Laughter broke through the chamber. Even the chairman hid a smile. Branton snapped, Miss Warren, are you romantically involved with the Duke? Nathaniel stood. That question is irrelevant. Eliza touched his sleeve. He looked at her. She shook her head once. He sat. Eliza turned back to Branton. No. At that time, it was true. Mostly. Branton smiled as if he had won something. Eliza added, but if I were, affection would still not make involuntary labor lawful. The committee ruled 2 days later. Family guardians could not sell multi-year service for unverified household debt without the adult worker's written consent and independent review. The decision did not end bonded labor. It narrowed one door. Sometimes that was how change began. Outside the courthouse, reporters crowded Nathaniel. He pointed to Eliza. Ask her. She testified. The gesture mattered more than any speech. He did not make himself the hero of her freedom. A reporter asked Eliza whether the Duke of Blackthorn had saved her. Eliza thought of the rain. The chair. The locked bedroom door. The employment contract. The moment Nathaniel stayed home because she asked him to. He helped me at a moment when I needed help, she said. But if you are asking whether my freedom belongs to him because he helped me reach it, then no. Freedom cannot belong to the rescuer. Nathaniel, several feet away, heard her. His eyes met hers. He smiled. That evening they ate supper at a crowded inn because the capital hotels were full. Eliza paid for her own stew. Nathaniel noticed. You are making a point. I enjoy points. So I have learned. They ate in comfortable silence. Then Nathaniel said, Your mother would have liked you. Eliza looked up sharply. You never met her. No. Then how do you know? Because anyone who raised you must have had excellent judgment and terrible luck with stubborn children. Eliza laughed. Later, alone in her room, she finally took out Mary's letter. She read the last line again. If some rich man rescues her, make sure she gets her own bank account. Eliza looked at the account book beside her bed. Then she laughed until tears came. By autumn, Eliza no longer lived in the West guest room. Not because Nathaniel asked her to leave. Because she rented a cottage in Blackthorn Village. The cottage had 2 rooms, a crooked chimney, and a pear tree that dropped fruit directly onto the roof at inconvenient hours. Eliza loved it. She bought the table herself. The kettle herself. The blue curtains herself. Mrs. Finch tried to give her a set of blankets. Eliza accepted one and paid for the other. "You are impossible," Mrs. Finch said. "I am financially independent. You are 23 and own 1 chair. 2. Dangerous." Nathaniel did not try to stop the move. That mattered. He sent a note. "The estate card is available if you want it. If not, Mr. Bell has been forbidden from looking wounded." Eliza used the cart. Mr. Bell looked wounded anyway. The distance changed her relationship with Blackthorn House. It became a workplace rather than refuge. That distinction gave Eliza room to discover what she wanted instead of what gratitude suggested she should want. She wanted accounts. Strangely. She liked the logic of numbers, but more than that she liked what numbers revealed about people. A budget was a moral document disguised as arithmetic. Who received boots? Who waited for medicine? Which bridge got repaired? Which widow's rent was forgiven? Nathaniel increasingly asked her opinion. Not privately at first. In meetings. At the table with stewards, tenant representatives, and lawyers. Some men disliked it. Lord Wexford, who leased grazing rights from the estate, disliked it loudly. "With respect, Your Grace, Miss Warren is a clerk." Nathaniel looked at Eliza. "Is that accurate?" Eliza considered. "Senior accounts clerk as of last month." "There we are." "Lord Wexford, your objection is outdated by 1 promotion." The room laughed. Wexford did not. Eliza leaned forward. "Also, your grazing figures are false." The laughter stopped. She slid a page across the table. "You reported 86 cattle. Your feed purchases support at least 120. The lower count reduces the land fee you owe Blackthorn tenants under the shared meadow agreement." Wexford went red. Nathaniel's eyes became dangerously calm. "Is that so?" The meeting lasted another hour. Wexford paid back fees. 3 tenant families received compensation. Afterward Nathaniel found Eliza gathering papers. "You enjoyed that." "A little. I am concerned about your moral development. You employ me. An error I revisit daily." Their friendship became easier. Then dangerous. Not because Nathaniel behaved improperly. Because Eliza began noticing him. The way he stood near doors in crowded rooms. The way loud crashes made his shoulders tighten before his face caught up. The way he never sat with his back to a window. The boarder had returned with him. One winter night, after a tenant meeting ran late, a tray dropped in the corridor. The crash was enormous. Nathaniel reached for a weapon that was not at his side. His face emptied. Then he was himself again. Everyone pretended not to see. Eliza did not mention it until later. She found him outside beneath the covered walk, breathing cold air. "Are you all right?" "Yes." She waited. He looked at her. "That answer is clearly false." Eliza smiled. His own words. Nathaniel exhaled. The sound was similar to artillery striking a supply wagon. "Do you want company?" He looked surprised. "Not are you all right?" "Not you should rest." "Do you want company?" Yes, he said. So she sat beside him on the entrance chair. It was barely wide enough for two. Their shoulders touched. Neither moved away. Nathaniel said, "You have stolen this chair completely. You brought it to me." A tactical error. They sat until his breathing settled. Nothing romantic happened. That was why Eliza remembered it. He did not use vulnerability to demand intimacy. She did not use care to make herself necessary. They sat. Then went home separately. The following spring, Blackthorn House faced a crisis that had nothing to do with romance and everything to do with wheat. A fungal blight struck 3 northern farms. Within 2 weeks, grain prices rose sharply. Merchants began hoarding. The village council panicked. Nathaniel proposed opening the estate reserve at controlled prices. His advisors objected. "You'll lose money," one said. "Yes," Nathaniel answered. "Considerably." "Still yes." Eliza studied the warehouse records. "We can do better." Nathaniel looked at her. She spread a map across the table. "The southern barley harvest is strong. If we subsidize milling changes, mix barley flour into the public bread allotment, and release only half the wheat reserve now, we can stretch supply until imported grain arrives." Mr. Bell frowned. "People will complain about barley bread. People complain less when bread exists." Nathaniel's mouth twitched. They implemented the plan. Eliza spent 10 days in villages explaining prices directly to tenants. She refused a carriage on roads too muddy for wheels and rode a small mare that disliked puddles. Nathaniel joined the 3rd day. "You don't need to come," Eliza said. "I know." "Then why are you here?" "Because a duke announcing cheaper bread from a dry office deserves to be mocked." She smiled. At the last village, an elderly farmer recognized Eliza's surname. "Warren? Mary Warren's girl?" Eliza stopped. "You knew my mother?" "Bought cloth from her for years." "Sharp woman." He looked at Nathaniel. "She'd be proud." Eliza could not answer. That night at the inn, she cried in the pantry because grief chose strange doors. Nathaniel found her. He stopped outside. "May I come in?" Eliza laughed through tears. "It's a pantry." "Still a room." "Yes." He entered. He did not touch her. Not until she held out her hand. Then he took it. His scarred fingers were warm. "I miss her," Eliza whispered. "I know." "No, you don't." "You're right." She looked at him. He corrected himself. "I know what it is to miss someone. I don't know your version." Eliza squeezed his hand. "Better." After the grain crisis passed, rumors began. A duke and a former servant girl made excellent gossip, even if the former servant had never technically been a servant. People did not care about accuracy when scandal offered simpler sentences. Nathaniel heard the rumors first. He became distant. Eliza noticed immediately. Meetings ended quickly. Notes arrived through Mr. Bell instead of Nathaniel. He stopped walking through the estate office at noon. After 2 weeks, Eliza cornered him in the library. "What did I do?" Nathaniel looked up from a report. "Nothing." "Then why are you avoiding me?" "I'm not." That answer is clearly false. He closed the report. Eliza waited. Finally he said, "People are talking." "People always talk." "About you." "I survive the experience daily." Nathaniel's jaw tightened. "They say I kept you here for reasons other than charity." Eliza went very still. "I see. I don't want your work dismissed because of proximity to me." "So you dismissed me first?" His face changed. I did not dismiss you. You made me invisible. I was trying to protect your reputation. Eliza laughed without humor. There it is. What? You deciding what I need because it makes you feel safer. Nathaniel stood. That is not fair. No? She folded her arms. Did you ask whether I wanted distance? He looked away. No. Did you ask whether I wanted to answer the rumors myself? No. Did you even ask whether the rumors frightened me? Silence. Eliza's anger softened into disappointment. You were the first person who ever asked what I wanted. Don't become the man who decides asking is inconvenient when feelings get involved. Nathaniel closed his eyes. When he opened them, the defensiveness was gone. You're right. The apology came so quickly Eliza lost half her anger. That is annoying. I can argue if it would help. No. Good. I'm tired. She almost laughed. Nathaniel came around the desk but stopped at a respectful distance. Then I will ask. Do you want me to remain professionally distant? No. His expression shifted. Do you want the rumors addressed? Only if they affect estate business. Do you want Dash? He stopped. Eliza's pulse changed. What? Nathaniel looked almost nervous. The feared Duke of Blackthorn. Nervous. Do you want me to tell you that the rumors are not entirely invented? Eliza forgot to breathe. He continued before courage failed. I care for you. More than is convenient. I have for some time. Eliza's heart struck once, hard. Nathaniel did not step closer. I am not asking for an answer now. Why not? Because your first safe home was under my roof. Your work is tied to my estate. I have more money and more social power than you. If I ask badly, affection can become another debt. Eliza stared. He swallowed. I will not do that to you. She looked toward the library windows. Rain had begun. Almost exactly 1 year after the day she arrived. What if I care for you too? Nathaniel's face changed. Hope. Then caution. Then we proceed slowly. Eliza laughed. You make romance sound like an audit. Audits prevent catastrophe. Noted. She stepped closer. Ask me to dinner. He blinked. Dinner? Outside the estate. Somewhere I can pay for my own meal if I hate you by dessert. Nathaniel smiled. Miss Warren, would you have dinner with me? Yes. Their courtship was not a secret. That mattered to Eliza. No hidden arrangement. No private dependence disguised as protection. They ate at an inn in the neighboring town. Eliza paid for dessert just to prove she could. Nathaniel objected. She ignored him. They argued about poetry. He disliked sentimental verse. She accused him of having the emotional taste of a fence post. He said fence posts were structurally useful. They kissed 3 weeks later on the stone bridge outside her cottage. Nathaniel asked first. Eliza said yes. Then laughed against his mouth because of course he asked. Their courtship faced its most important test when Eliza received an offer that had nothing to do with Blackthorn. The Provincial Audit Office wanted her in the capital for 6 months. The committee hearing had drawn attention to her work with estate ledgers, and an auditor named Margaret Sloan wrote to ask whether Eliza would join a temporary investigation into fraudulent labor debts across 4 counties. The pay was nearly twice her Blackthorn salary. The work mattered. Eliza read the letter 3 times. Then she became angry. Not at the offer. At herself. Her first thought had been Nathaniel will hate this. The old reflex frightened her. She carried the letter to the estate office and found him reviewing bridge estimates. "I received an offer." Nathaniel looked up. "From whom?" She handed him the page. He read it. His face revealed almost nothing. 6 months. Yes. In the capital. Yes. He set the letter down. Eliza waited. Nathaniel finally asked, "Do you want it?" Her eyes burned immediately. She hated that 3 ordinary words could still undo her. "I think I do." "Then you should take it." She stared. "That's all?" His mouth tilted. "Would you like a dramatic objection?" "No." "Good. I didn't prepare one." Eliza sat across from him. "You don't mind?" "I mind very much." That surprised her. Nathaniel leaned back. "I will miss you. I dislike the capital. Sloane steals capable people and never returns them. I had imagined seeing you more than once every few weeks." Eliza's chest tightened. "Then why tell me to go?" "Because none of those are reasons you should stay." There it was. The difference between preference and permission. Nathaniel continued. "If you stay because you want Blackthorn more, good. If you go because the work matters, also good. If I have made myself the price of your opportunity, then I have failed spectacularly at everything I claim to believe." Eliza looked down at the letter. "I want to go." "Then go." She smiled. "I also want us." Nathaniel's expression softened. Those sentences are allowed to exist together. So Eliza went. The capital was loud, expensive, and endlessly muddy. She rented one room above a bookbinder's shop. The bed was narrow. The neighbor practiced violin badly. The water pump froze twice. Eliza loved it almost as much as her cottage. At the audit office, she worked with clerks who cared nothing about her connection to Blackthorn because Margaret Sloane cared only whether Eliza could prove a number. She could. In 6 months, their team uncovered 11 fraudulent contracts, 3 magistrates taking fees from labor brokers, and 1 parish guardian who had been charging orphan siblings for meals donated by the church. Eliza testified twice. She learned to speak without looking for Nathaniel in the room. That mattered. He visited every 3rd weekend when council work allowed. He stayed at an inn. Not in her rented room. The first time, the bookbinder's wife looked scandalized. "A duke is staying at the Swan?" Eliza smiled. "The Swan has beds." Nathaniel brought no expensive gifts. Once he brought pears from her cottage tree because Mrs. Finch said they were falling faster than anyone could eat them. Eliza gave half to the bookbinder's children. They walked through the capital markets, argued about taxation, and sometimes had only one evening before he returned to Blackthorn. Distance did not make their affection less real. It made it less dependent on access. Near the end of the assignment, Margaret Sloane offered Eliza a permanent position. Eliza sat with the letter for an entire night. The old question returned in a healthier form. What do I want? Not what would prove independence. Not what would prove love. What life did she actually want? The answer surprised her. She wanted Blackthorn. Not because Nathaniel was there alone. Because the estate work mattered to her. The village school mattered. The cooperative fund mattered. Her cottage, ridiculous pear tree and all, felt like home. She declined the permanent capital post and negotiated instead to consult on labor audits 4 times a year. When she told Nathaniel, he was careful. "Are you sure?" Eliza smiled. "That sounds like doubt." "It is due diligence." "I am sure." Because? Because leaving proved I could. Coming back proves I want to. Nathaniel went very still. Eliza touched his hand. Those are different things. Yes, he said quietly. They are. When her 6-month assignment ended, Eliza returned to Blackthorn on a bright June afternoon. She had expected Nathaniel at the station. He was not there. Mr. Bell was. His Grace wished to come, he said, but you once complained that grand welcomes made arriving feel like an obligation. Eliza stared. He remembered that? Unfortunately, His Grace remembers selectively but intensely. At Blackthorn House, no musicians waited. No formal staff line. Nathaniel stood beneath the portico beside the oak chair. That was all. Eliza climbed down from the cart. He looked at her trunk. Are you staying? She smiled. I have a cottage. Excellent point. And yes. Nathaniel's smile arrived slowly. Welcome home, then. Eliza looked at the chair. You kept my seat? Against repeated attempts by guests to use it. Heroic. I suffered. She laughed and kissed him beneath the same roof where she had once arrived believing choice belonged to everyone except her. Aunt Miriam returned one final time that summer. Not to the estate. To Eliza's cottage. She arrived thinner, angrier, carrying a basket of forced friendliness. I heard you're courting the Duke. Eliza did not invite her inside. You heard correctly. Miriam looked past her toward the simple furniture. Still living here? Yes. Why? Because I like it. Miriam laughed. Don't be stupid. If a duke wants you, take what you can before he changes his mind. Eliza felt, unexpectedly, no fear. That is how you understand relationships, isn't it? Miriam's face hardened. I understand survival. So do I now. Eliza stepped onto the porch. Survival isn't grabbing the most powerful person and hoping they keep liking you. It's knowing that if they stop, you still exist. Miriam stared. You think you're better than me? No. Eliza meant it. I think I had help you didn't have. But you had choices about what to do with your pain. You chose to sell mine. Miriam's face crumpled for 1 second. Then hardened again. Your mother would be ashamed of how you speak to family. Eliza's grief rose. It did not control her. My mother taught girls to read because she believed family wasn't the limit of a woman's life. I think she would understand me perfectly. She closed the gate. Miriam left. Eliza watched from the porch. She did not feel victorious. She felt free. Nathaniel proposed in October. He did it badly. That was how Eliza knew he had not rehearsed for effect. She was in the estate office arguing with Mr. Bell about winter road funds when Nathaniel appeared holding the entrance chair. Not a ring. The chair. Mr. Bell looked at it. Your Grace, should I ask? No. Excellent. I prefer ignorance. He fled. Eliza stared at Nathaniel. Why are you carrying furniture? Historical symbolism. That sounds dangerous. He set the chair in front of her. Sit. Eliza laughed. Absolutely not. This was more effective the first time. I was cold and terrified the first time. Fair. Nathaniel looked at the chair, then at her. 1.5 years ago, you sat here because I wanted you to understand that you were not something being transferred between people. Eliza's laughter faded. Since then, you built savings, rented a home, became the best accounts officer on this estate, insulted my poetry, corrected my grain policy, and stolen this chair so thoroughly that the staff refers to it as yours. Her eyes burned. Nathaniel reached into his coat. This time there was a ring. Simple gold. No enormous stone. I do not want to give you a better cage. Eliza swallowed. I don't want you to marry me because I helped you. I don't want you to marry me because you think you owe me. And I don't want marriage to erase the life you made after you became free. He took a breath. I want a life with you if you want one with me. Eliza stared at the ring. Then at him. Will I keep working? If you want. My cottage? Keep it. Rent it. Turn it into a school. Paint it purple. That's a terrible color. I panic under questioning. She laughed through tears. Separate accounts? Yes. My wages? If you continue estate work, yes. Marriage is not unpaid employment. Eliza covered her mouth. Nathaniel looked suddenly alarmed. Is that a yes? You haven't asked the question. He closed his eyes. Right. Then the Duke of Blackthorn, feared by officers, hated by dishonest stewards, and defeated by one woman with an account ledger, went down on one knee. Eliza Warren, will you marry me? She looked at the chair. At the scar on his hand. At the office where she had learned her mind could earn money. At the door she could leave through whenever she chose. Yes. Nathaniel exhaled so hard she laughed again. But I'm keeping the chair. I assumed that was part of the settlement. They married in spring. Not at court. At Blackthorn Village Church. Eliza wore cream instead of white because white fabric seemed designed to terrify anyone who had ever walked near mud. Mrs. Finch cried before the ceremony began. Mr. Bell denied crying at all. Nathaniel's mother came from the coast, silver-haired and sharp-eyed. She hugged Eliza once, then inspected the entrance chair afterward. This is the famous one? Eliza smiled. Apparently your family solves crises with chairs. Lady Hawthorne looked at her son. We have limited emotional range. Nathaniel sighed. After the wedding, Eliza did not become Duchess of Blackthorn in the way society expected. She became Duchess legally. Socially. But she remained Director of Estate Accounts, with a salary written into an independent contract approved by trustees other than her husband. Court society found this ridiculous. Eliza found court society expensive and often inaccurate. She used her position to create a small legal fund for household workers trapped in fraudulent service debts. The first year, 7 people used it. The second, 19. One rainy afternoon, Eliza returned to Blackthorn House and found a girl standing beneath the portico. 17, perhaps. Thin. Wet shoes. A man beside her holding a document and talking too loudly about debt. Eliza stopped. The past did not repeat exactly. It rhymed. Mr. Bell stood near the entrance, older now and no less unimpressed by humanity. Your Grace, he said, this gentleman claims the girl owes service for family expenses. Eliza looked at the girl. The girl lowered her eyes. Eliza crossed the hall. She did not ask the price. She did not take the contract first. She pulled the oak chair from beneath the wall. The cushion had been reupholstered twice, but one arm still carried a faint water stain from the day Eliza first arrived. She placed it beside the girl. You've been standing in the rain. The girl's eyes lifted. Eliza smiled. Sit. Across the hall, Nathaniel had just entered. He stopped when he saw the chair. Something warm moved through his expression. The man holding the contract began protesting. Eliza ignored him. What's your name? She asked the girl. Anna. Anna, did you agree to whatever is written on that paper? The girl looked frightened. Eliza waited. Nathaniel did not interfere. Mr. Bell did not rush her. Finally Anna whispered, "No." Eliza nodded. "Then we begin there." Later, after the fraudulent contract had been turned over to the magistrate and Anna had chosen temporary paid work in the kitchens while deciding what came next, Eliza found Nathaniel in the entrance hall. He was sitting in the chair. Her chair. She stopped. "Excuse me." He looked up innocently. "Yes? You're in my chair. I was under the impression it belonged to the hall." Eliza narrowed her eyes. "Get up." Nathaniel smiled. "Make me." She laughed and sat on the arm instead. Outside, rain tapped against the red gates. Years earlier, Eliza had arrived believing her life could be transferred by a signature. A relative had called her a burden. A contract had called her labor. Fear had called her trapped. The Duke had not saved her by choosing a different future for her. That was what people often misunderstood when they told the story. He had done something smaller. Harder. He had stopped deciding. He gave her a place to sit. He asked what she wanted. Then he respected the answer, even when the answer took her away from his house, disagreed with his judgment, challenged his habits, or required him to wait. Eliza built everything else from there. Her work. Her money. Her cottage. Her name. Her marriage. Her own ability to offer the same question to someone else. Nathaniel leaned his shoulder against hers. "You're thinking too loudly. That's not a thing. It is in marriage." Eliza smiled. "I was thinking the chair was a good investment." "Terrible investment. I've lost it completely." "You gained an accounts director." "Expensive." "A wife." "More expensive." She elbowed him. He laughed. The sound echoed through the hall where no one was whispering anymore. The chair remained by the entrance for the rest of their lives. Not as a throne. Not as a relic. As a reminder. Before a contract. Before a duty. Before a title. Before gratitude. A person should be allowed to sit down long enough to hear their own answer.